Steve, that's a theme I don't want to end, buddy. That's a banger, buddy.
It is. I mean, you have to acknowledge it.
That's for sure. Now, if we were to do a no holds barred draft, that might be my first pick in the I don't know current era.
It'd definitely be up there.
For sure. All right, Steve. I'm also mourning the loss of my Boston Celtics, so in solidarity, I'm going to wear my favorite Celtics hat, if you don't mind. Just be nice being in the conference finals and having 2 wins under your belts with the Golden Knights.
Yeah, it is.
All right, enough
But
showing
yeah.
off about the fuck. Right? We're here to talk about
Hey,
Roman Reigns.
they can choke it away very easily. So
The Celtics,
you don't want to get cocky.
Celtics are back, buddy. We're going to see like the Red Sox in 04. Anyways. All right, Steve, let's kind of jump at the characters here. All right, back to Sami and KO for the Bloodline. I'm kind of okay with it, just based off the depth of the past, and it plays into the new dynamic of the Usos disappointing the Tribal Chief, Solo being this loose cannon pivot here. Kevin and Sami being on Raw, but holding the SmackDown tag titles is why this is allowed. I assume KO is done with all the Bloodline nonsense. Sami still dips his toes into it. He finds himself inside conversations with Jay on the last SmackDown, having an in-ring face-to-face with Roman Reigns, confident that the Bloodline is crack and will break. He still has that investment in seeing that through, and keeping those tag belts will further that. Still feel there's meat on the Sami Roman bone. Solo is presented strong, even picking up the victory in the 6-man tag at Backlash while adding Descent with the Usos. It is Solo Sikoa must pose season still. Roman is fed up with the Usos, holding the Solo close to him for protection and or sending a message to the Usos. He's not worried about KO. However, Sami is a regret to him. Sami is still a trigger. Sami is an annoyance, and he wants to tell Sami how he felt. Till the Usos popped up and ruined that, taking out KO and Sami. The Usos is a pivot here. I suspect them to show up. I suspect them to keep getting involved. Will it help or cost Roman and Solo? Will Solo and Roman have a conflict, Steve Riddle, after this match, during this match, or what? So pretty much, let's just jump into the Bloodline here. This match is used as a pivot for the Bloodline. Where will the dissension lie after this match?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious right now that it's basically Roman and Solo on one side and the Usos on the other side. Hence, we've been seeing the Usos kind of, they've been taking a lot of the losses lately, losing the titles at WrestleMania, losing the rematch right before the draft. Meanwhile, Roman is obviously relying heavily on Solo to help him out. I mean, Solo pretty much is the reason why Roman beat Cody at WrestleMania, and Solo was the one who got the pin in the 6-man at Backlash. And you of course have that one little moment where Solo looked like he was going to give Jay the spike, but he held off. When that moment comes, it's going to trigger some big reaction. I mean, yeah, it's just been such an interesting storyline that's been going on pretty much. I mean, we're coming up almost to 2 years now almost that the storyline's been going on since Roman first won the Universal title back in 2021 and had the first feud with Jay.
3 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, even going back to, even long before the Bloodline stuff, even when Roman and the Usos would team up occasionally in 6-man tags. I mean, this has been a story that's been building so big and so strong throughout these last few years that it's only, you knew it was only a matter of time that something was going to happen, and now you're just kind of waiting to see what happens now. I almost feel like even though they're trying to keep KO and Sami heavily involved in it, they definitely feel like the side players, and it's all the focus is on the Bloodline.
They're like a reliable story within the story to add substance to the pivot of the Bloodline. All right, so quick questions within the Bloodline here. Roman and Solo. How do you think Roman feels towards Solo? Does he keep him close to the vest because he's worried about him, or do they keep him, or does he keep him close to the vest because he kind of knows that he needs him? Like, is he worried he's going to turn on him, or does he know that he has like insecurity inside that he knows that he needs Solo to protect him?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think he knows he needs Solo by his side. Um, like I said, Solo was the reason why Cody lost at
Yeah,
WrestleMania. So there's that, and
he's largely lost at Castle to Castle. Yeah.
yeah, and I think even though he's trying to play off, because the whole thing was with Cody specifically, trying to get in Solo's head and say, Roman's just using you to get what he wants. And I think it's more Roman kind of taking that to heart than Solo is, because Solo has definitely proven himself to be a loyal soldier to Roman.
Yeah.
But Roman, I think, again, has that insecurity about him because he's kind of seen he's seen the cracks form, within the bloodline, and he's come so close now on a couple of occasions to losing the unified titles that he's definitely getting very paranoid. He definitely his we it's the bloodlines we kind of compared to like a mob, and
Hmm.
he's obviously the Don, and he's obviously
The
very
Hitman.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
but he's kind of worried that maybe his own guy's going to turn on him. So
Yeah.
he kind of wants to keep that, kind of close, like you said, close to the vest.
See, I feel like he thinks Jay is the one that he's kind of worried about. And I think that I know that he still has Jay under his wrap, but I think he knows that Jay deep down, I think he knows that Jay is the threat to him at up top. You know what I mean? So he
Hmm.
keeps that kind of he keeps gaslighting him because he knows that gaslighting is a way to kind of trigger Jay and kind of keep Jay away from the prize of Roman, the top of the bloodline. And I think that he doesn't really necessarily see Solo coming. I think he uses Solo as like that hitman type of thing. But I think, giving Jay the right hand man, Jay, right? He gave him that because he I think he feels deep down that Jay has the potential to kind of unthrone him as the leader of the bloodline, the leader of the family, the leader of the WWE, whatever. Um,
Hmm. Because I
so I
mean, he
think
remembers how
he
Jay took
remember
him to the limit in those matches.
yeah,
So
he felt Jay, you know what I mean? And I don't think, and Jimmy is, he got Jimmy there to kind of distract Jay to use them to fall in line. So let's talk Usos and Roman here. Is he sending them a message or to kind of just to make sure that they get in line to kind of to get, or is he really fed up with them and he really wants them out? But then again, to what I just said, I think that he really is just sending him a message because I don't think that he wants Jay outside of the family because I don't think that he wants Jay to kind of like spread his wings a little bit because I think Roman re- realizes the potential that Jey Uso has from a character standpoint.
yeah, I agree. He definitely, you can see he wants to get rid of them just for for the failures they've had, but at the same time he knows the threat that they pose to him,
Yeah,
and they don't, and it's basically he's following the old adage, keep your friends closer and your enemies closer, especially when it comes to family.
yeah.
So
I think that he wants. I think it's just his way of his psychotic way of sending a message to them to get them right because he knows Jay can. It's the best way to do it, and he's keeping him distracted from having his own personal, realizations of who he could be and should be.
mhm.
All right, now let's talk Heyman. Heyman loyal to Roman throughout and through, or he has these side conversations going on with Solo here. Is that through Roman, or is that Heyman from himself? To kind of keep, or do you think Heyman sees that Jay is really the shiny toy, or do you think that he still thinks Roman is the shiny toy, or do you think that he thinks Solo is the future, and he kind of has this little side rift like side quest with Solo through himself or through Roman? What do you think?
It's interesting because Heyman's always been the ultimate shit stirrer,
Yeah,
regardless of where he what he
he's a
does. I
puppet
mean,
master in a way of the bloodline.
exactly. I mean, we think back to 2002 when he was managing Brock, was when he was feuding with the Big Show, and he kept telling Brock, I don't know if you can beat Big Show. I don't think you can beat him. And then at Survivor Series, he turned on Brock and
Mhm.
cost him the title. So I think he's a guy that's always knows that you have to build to the future. So I think definitely sees Solo as the future stud. of the company, but right now he's still trying to he's still pledging his allegiance to Roman, and trying to, and, it's wanting to prove to him that he's still by his side as his counsel. But I would not be all surprised if at some point he does start manipulating his way to
prolong his lead up top.
Right, because that's just the kind of guy he is.
Exactly. He needs to stay up top, and I think he's smart enough to be the puppet master and see the road ahead on where the road up the mountain is going to go. All right, so let's kind of talk KO and Sami here. Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. Any more meat on that bone, do you think? Because they've kind of two things. The reason why I think there's potential there still. Well, three really. One being WrestleMania main event with Cody. Sammy's the one that left him laying. Sammy's the one that gave him the haluva kick in the corner. That had the biggest crowd reaction when Sami delivered that in the main event before the Usos sent him running with KO. And so he was dead to rights again via Sami Zayn, via the haluva kick. Two, Roman showed emotion. He was triggered when he was face to face with Sami. And three, being Sami still has the investment, talking to Jay, wanting to divide the bloodline, wanting to fully bring him down. So with those three hints or those three investment, is there enough there to kind of go back to their whatever they want to?
I think there may be a little bit, but I think they're starting to kind of run out of time with it, because I feel like they want to kind of move KO and Sami away from the bloodline and kind of get them in the tag. The tag titles have been kind of ingrained in this issue for like the last few months now. So it's now you're finally kind of come to a point where it's like you want some of these other teams to kind of step up and challenge KO and Sami for the belts. And I mean, there's a lot of great matchups that KO and Sami could potentially have for both sets of belts. I mean, you got
they are on the other show. They are on the other show. They're just a vehicle to keep this pivot alive because it's convenient. And I kind of do like how Roman and Solo are going for the titles to kind of show, to do it for Alpha, do it for Sika, the real tag team, gaslighting the Usos too. Mm-hmm. So, all right. And KO is said he's done with the bloodline. He's fed up with them. He's over this. It's a distraction. He's just done with it. Would the bloodline still be a vehicle of getting in the way of a potential of a Sami and KO conflict? Because Sami can't stay away. It's going to eventually cost them the tag titles. Do you think it could perhaps be a vehicle to separate ways again with those two?
Quite possibly could. I think it all depends if they do lose the tag titles. I think if they keep them, I could see them being a team for a little bit longer, because we've never really, we never really seen them as a have an extended run as a team, at least as faces. I mean, we saw it briefly when they were heels, but not as faces. So I think they've earned the right to at least have a good little run as the champions. Yeah. And I think I think if they do end up retaining, I think that's got to be it. That they've got to move away from and let the bloodline kind of handle their own business and then focus on focus on other teams on both shows.
All right, so that's kind of everyone involved in this match, and then a few ancillary people outside of this match who are, hovering around it with the Usos and Paul Heyman. Where do you see this match on the card?
I think it's the main event. As long as Roman's in it, it's got to be the main event. Now I can see a world where they want the world heavyweight title match to be last.
That would be my personal pick. I'd put Cody in the middle.
I don't think, Cody and Brock are definitely not main eventing again. But even though you're crowning a new world champion, Roman's still your number one guy. So, I mean, again, I would like to see the world title match be last, but I guess got a feeling that with Roman, he's going to be last.
I just personally feel that they need to present that world title in the main event because it already has stigma of being the second world title. If you put that first or even before Roman, you're just kind of stamping that initial message of this is because no one can beat Roman type of thing. But so I would put this, I'd actually put this first because if Roman's not last, he's first. All right. How do you anticipate this going? Do you think this is going to live up to the hype? Do you anticipate this to be high, and do you think it will live up to it?
I think the expectations are definitely very high. All four guys have definitely been firing on all cylinders. I mean, we saw Roman have great matches with KO and Sammy solo. So,
Mhm.
um, in a tag team, I think that you could definitely see that as well. And solo has been really improving every week
I
as a
need a little more substance. If he's the guy to beat Roman, I need to see a little bit more personally. You know,
oh,
that's
he's
just
definitely
me.
getting. I mean, he's getting there, but this is a big test for him. He's with
Yeah, it's
he's
interesting.
it's a huge match for the tag titles. He's got the number one guy, as his partner.
Did you see
He it's
Roman holding
his.
up fucking 6 titles? Like, what are we doing?
It's his. It's this is gonna be a sink or swim moment, I think, for Solo.
Okay, to Roman, is that what we're? Because we're kind of digging into the characters here. So you think that this is a sink or swim moment for Solo to prove to Roman, kind of thing, or sink, or from a from a from a mock standpoint, he needs to go out there and perform and kind
He
of.
needs to. I think he definitely needs to show he can hang
Okay.
with these
I
guys. That's which I
I
think
I
he can.
personally
I
need to
think he
see it.
can, but yeah.
I know I need to personally see it where he- it's Solo must pose season. I just need to see a little more, like massage me into it. Don't be forcing it down my throat a little bit. All right,
Mm.
big question, Steve. Who's winning this match? I personally think it's the hardest match on the card to pick.
I agree. I mean, it's pretty much it's a toss up basically because right now the it's believed that the match at Money in the Bank is going to be Roman and Solo against the Usos, and it all hinders on what happens in this match.
Mhm.
If Roman and Solo do win the tag titles, they do a thing where Roman kind of is like, see that, I prove my point that I can, that you have, you failed me too many times. I had to take matters into my own hands, and eventually the
We
Usos
lost
just,
these guys. We beat them. Yeah.
yeah, and the Usos finally get, you know, they've had all they can stand, they can't stand no more, and they finally, snap on them. Or if the Usos get involved in the match and cost Roman and Solo the tag titles against KO and Sammy, that just gives Roman more ammunition to finally is like, you know what? I've had it with you guys. I've had it with your screw ups. I've had it with your, failing me every time. We're done. And
Yep.
then that leads to the tag match at Money in
Leads
the
to the
Bank. So,
spike. You're out of the bloodline. Yeah.
yep.
All
I'm
right.
gonna I'm gonna go in terms of like who I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna go with the latter and say that Sammy and KO will retain, because the Usos screw up.
I kind of want to see Roman holding 6 belts, but I agree with you. If I were to put my money on the line, I would say the Usos screw up, and I agree with the same sentiment as you.
I think KO and Sammy deserve to have a little bit of a longer run with those belts.
I agree too. I agree too. But man, the story, there's so many avenues they could go with this story, and I love it. I'm here for it. But all right, Steve, anything to plug as we get out of here?
Just recent episode No Holds Barred. I was a part of the draft day. Me, JT, Aaron, and Chad. We drafted wrestlers' best years, their best 12-month periods, which was a lot of fun. A lot of great
Yes.
choices. Really hard. I mean, we
Mm,
that was a topic where I think if we went like 12 rounds, we could have. We could have kept going with so many great years. So just be sure to check that out and check out everything else here on the channel.
cool. Steve, thank you. Catch you in the next one, buddy.
Thank you.